Hello friends, welcome to my channel. I hope everybody's doing well. In this channel, I offer jewelry making tutorials, unboxings, and creative design ideas. And today I'm going to be showing you how to make a very pretty Christmas themed bracelet. And I say Christmas themed because some of the beads are a reddish color, but of course you could wear it any time of the year. And we'll be using the beads that came in Sam's bead box for the month of November. Now if you're not familiar with that box, I'll leave some information down below in the description section of this video, along with a link to the website and a coupon code in case you're interested. I do want to give you a quick peek of the contents, so we'll do that first, and then we'll jump into the tutorial. And don't forget that I always model my pieces at the end of my videos, so please stick around for that. As you can see, this bracelet features some pretty red colored square Czech beads, as well as some sparkly pyrite gemstones. And to top it all off, it has a magnetic clasp to make it easy to put on. And I can't wait to show you how to make this bracelet, but let's go ahead and take a quick peek at the contents first. And here we have Sam's bead box for the month of November 2024. The name of this box is Broadway Bound. Of course, it contained beads and components in colors and themes that represent the music, drama, and glamour of Broadway. But of course, even though the box is Broadway themed, it had plenty of colors that represent the Christmas season. One of the most astounding strands was this beautiful strand of beads in graduating sizes, but I also loved this strand of black onyx star-cut beads. And of course, just like all the other Sam's bead boxes, we had lots and lots of Czech beads. One of my favorite strands though were these tiny pyrite beads, and of course since they're faceted, that always adds a lot of sparkle. Another nice thing about Sam's bead boxes is that they always offered beads of different sizes and shapes. So we had brios, we also had some tiny rondelle beads, and we even had some 2-hole beads, which is what we're going to be using for today's project. So let me show you the materials we'll be using for today's project. Here are the materials for today's project. These 2 beads, the square ones and the little round ones, are from Sam's bead box, but these seed beads and the clasp are from my own stash. These are size 15-0 round Miyuki seed beads, and the color is metallic gold iris. And these are Czech 2-hole square beads. The color is listed as red crystal gilded bronze, and these tiny ones are faceted pyrite beads. They measure 2.2 millimeters across. And here we have a magnetic clasp. It measures 11 millimeters from loop to loop, but the round portion measures 5 millimeters across. Of course, we'll be using some fireline, and I know you can't see it because there's a label stuck on top, but it's 6-pound fireline and it's in a smoke color. And here I have a size 11 beading needle. You don't want to use anything thicker than that because you're going to have a hard time going through these beads, and they'll probably end up breaking if you use a thicker needle. So let me go ahead and cut myself, I would say probably a wingspan's worth. I like to flatten my end to make it easier to thread through the needle. Let me go ahead and thread it. There we go. Now today's project is relatively easy, but what's going to make it challenging are the size of the beads. They're pretty small. Let me start by sliding one of these beads onto my needle. These 2-hole beads, just like that. You do want to leave yourself a little bit of a tail so you can tie off a few knots. And now I'm going to slide on 2 of these size 15-0 seed beads. Let me bring them down. I'm actually going to separate this magnetic clasp. And I'm going to slide it on. Like that. Bring it down. So this is what we have so far. And now I'm going to slide on 2 more size 15-0 seed beads. Pick up my work. And I'm going to go down this other side of the square bead. Just like this. So far, so good. And now I'm going to tie off a knot to hold everything in place. And it's just a regular overhand knot. Let me do one more. And now I'm going to go through all of the beads again to reinforce. So I'm going to go down this way. Through this 15-0 seed bead. Through the loop of the clasp. It's challenging because the magnet keeps wanting to stick to my needle. And now through these two 15-0 seed beads on this side, and go through the square bead again. So that's what we have so far. You do want to keep that tail out of the way, like I said. And now I'm going to pick up a size 15-0 seed bead, a pyrite bead. Let me see if I can find the holes. They're so tiny. Sometimes it's easy to just pick them up with the left hand. And now another size 15-0 seed bead. Bring everything down like this. And now I'm going to go down the other side of the square bead, like this. So now these 3 beads are sitting on the bottom side of the square bead. I'm going to go through these two 15-0 beads again, like this. Through the loop of the magnetic clasp. Down this side now. Let me move this tail out of the way. I will get rid of it pretty shortly. So now I'm ready to move on to the next set of beads. And actually, I should have gone through this size 11-0, because the next beaded component is going to go right here. I'm going to go through the pyrite bead, and now I'm going to pick up 3 of the pyrite beads. Slide them down like this. I'm going to go through this pyrite bead again. You want to make sure you keep good tension, guys, okay, when you do this. So I'm going to pull this end and now pull my needle through. And now we have a set of 4 little pyrite beads. I'm going to go through this one. And now we're going to go through this one right here. Just like that. And I'm going to slide on one of these 15-0 seed beads, a square bead, another 50 seed bead, a pyrite bead, another 50 seed bead, like this. That's the sequence. I'm going to go down this side of the square bead, make sure you take out the slack. I hope you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to pick up a 50 seed bead and go through the pyrite bead right here, if I can find the hole. That's probably the most frustrating thing about this project, but hopefully you can see what I'm doing. It'll get easier once I create more components. But anyway, that's what we have so far. I'm going to flip my work around to make it easier. And now I'm going to go through this 50 seed bead and the one on the other side. Go through this pyrite bead. And I'm going to go around the whole thing one more time to reinforce. So I'm going through the 50 here. Pull the pyrite bead. This 50 and the square bead. This 50 on this side. And now the pyrite bead. Let me just show you what we have so far. I hope you can see it even though the beads are small. Well, the square beads aren't obviously, but the other ones are pretty tiny. So now I'm ready to create the next component. Let me put it down. I'm going to pick up the beads this way, I think, to make it easier. I need 3 of them, so that's 1, 2, and 3. So there's a total of 4 pyrite beads right there. I'm going to go through this one. And there's my next set. I absolutely love the sparkle of those beads. They're so pretty. So I'm coming out of this side of the bead. As you noticed, I did flip my work around to make it easier. Don't be afraid to do that. I'm going to go through this one here on the side. And pull. Just like that. And now I'm going to go through this one. Let me reinforce. And now that I think about it, I don't think I reinforced that one, but that's okay, I can do it later. So I'm going to go through this one again. Let me get this tail out of the way. In fact, when I go to do the knotting to get rid of the tail, I'm going to go ahead and reinforce that segment. So let me go through this bead now. You might need pliers. Boy, that tail is getting kind of annoying because it wants to get in the way all the time. And now I'm going to go through this one. And through this one on the top. And I'm saying the top because I'm looking at it like this. So that's what we have so far. I think I'll add another segment with a square bead and then I'll get rid of the tail. So I'm going to slide on a size 15 seed bead, a square bead, another 15 seed bead, a pyrite bead, and another size 15 seed bead. Bring it down like this. Go through the square bead on this side. Take out the slack. Pick up another 15 seed bead. Go through the pyrite bead like this. I'm going to flip my work around and I'm going to reinforce. So now I'm ready for the next segment and I'm going to get rid of this tail. So let me remove my needle from this end because it's the only size 11 needle that I have. Let me flatten the end a little bit. All right, so I said I was going to reinforce, but I need to go this way because as you can see, I'm coming out of this side of the seed bead. And that's okay because I don't mind reinforcing the clasp. So now I'm going to go through this one and the loop of the clasp and down this way. And I think I'm going to add a little notch right here. So I'm going to grab a thread bridge right by the seed bead like this. Pull to make a little loop. Go through the loop and pull. And now I'm going to go through this seed bead. Through this pyrite bead. Like this. Down this pyrite. Let me turn my work around. I'm going to go through this one now. I'm basically going around the whole set. And now this one. So now I've reinforced this segment. So now let me go through this one. Through this 15 seed bead. Find another thread bridge. Let me see if I can find one. There's one right there. Create a loop. Go through the loop and pull. And I think that's enough reinforcing. We don't need any more than that. And let me see if I can go through the square bead again. The holes are pretty large, so I shouldn't have any trouble. Let me snip it off. course the magnet clasp keeps wanting to stick to my scissors. And now I need to put the needle back on this side, on this end. How many times have you seen me thread the needle now? It's not easy, guys, especially when you get to be my age. My eyesight's pretty bad. So here's what we have so far. Of course, now we need to add 3 pyrite beads. So now we need to go through this one right here. Like this. There's my next segment of pyrite beads, and I'm going to reinforce. So now we're ready for the next segment, which will include the square bead. It's pretty repetitive, it's the same thing over and over. But I'm going to do it one more time with you, just to make sure you get the idea. Although you could rewind the video, I suppose. So now I'm picking up a seed bead, a square bead, another seed bead, a pyrite bead, and another seed bead, like that. I'm going to go down this side of the square bead, let me just take out the slack. I know it's a little confusing, especially if you're a beginner. Think about this concept. You're just weaving around and around and around. So obviously, if I'm coming out of this side of the pyrite bead, I need to go through this side next. But I need to load a seed bead first. And now I'm going to go through the pyrite bead. Like this. Let me just pull and then I'll show you. Hopefully you can see it okay. And now I'm going to go ahead and reinforce the square bead segment. So I'm going to go down the seed bead and the square bead and the seed bead on the other side. Through the pyrite bead. Through the seed bead, square bead, and the other seed bead on this side, like this. Through this pyrite bead one more time. And now through the seed bead, square bead, and the other seed bead on the other side of the square bead, and through the pyrite bead, like that. And that's pretty much it for this step. Now there is another step after we get done with this. And of course we need to add the clasp at the other end before we do the second step. So I'm going to keep creating these beaded components until I get the length that I want. I'm thinking probably around 6 inches for myself because I have small wrists. And don't forget, you need to take into account that the clasp is going to add about 1/2 inch or so. maybe 3/4 of an inch if you include the 2 seed beads on either side of the loop of the clasp. So I'm going to keep building these components, but I'm going to do it off camera so the video isn't too long, and then I'll show you how to add the clasp at the other end, and we'll move on to step 2. So I'll see you in a few moments. I thought I would insert this segment. I want to show you how to tie off your thread and add new thread, because at some point you're going to have to do that. Now what I recommend that you do is to do it around one of these large square beads. You don't want to create knots around the pyrite beads because, like I said before, if you go through them too many times, they will break. And by the way, I did change my needle. I actually have a size 12 now, so forget about what I said about size 11. You're going to be better off with size 12 beading needles. As you can see, I have my segment with a square bead, and I haven't reinforced it yet. I'm going to reinforce it while I'm adding knots. So what I'm going to do now is to go through the seed bead like this. And I'm going to find a thread bridge. There's one right there. I hope you can see it. I know it's kind of small. And I'm going to create a loop. And I'm going to go through the loop and pull. And now I'm going to go through the square bead. And pull. I'm going to add another knot here, so I'm going to find a thread bridge right there, like this, and pull. And I don't know how that happened, but I have a little knot happening right there. Let me see if I can get it out. There we go. I need to go through that loop, so let me pull it back out. And pull. I'm going to go through the seed bead and the pyrite bead and pull through the seed bead. Find another thread bridge, make a loop, go through the loop, and now I'm going to go ahead and go through the square bead. So now I've made 3 knots, and before I snip off my thread, I'm going to weave around a little bit. So let me go through the seed bead. And I'll go through this pyrite bead. Hopefully it won't break on me. I'm actually taking chances. Because I've already reinforced this piece here. This segment, I should say. And I think that's good enough. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut my thread. And I'm going to show you how to add new thread. I have a new piece here. I've already threaded it on. Now obviously we're not going to go through that pyrite bead again. They're just too fragile. So I'm going to go through the seed bead and the square bead. And I'm going to go through the seed bead. And the pyrite bead. And I apologize for going off frame. I'm going to grab a thread bridge, make a loop, like this, go through the loop, pull, go through the seed bead and the square bead, find another thread bridge, There's one right there. Go through the loop. Now obviously we can't go through that pyrite bead again. It has too many thread passes. So instead of doing that, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump over to this hole like this. And that thread is actually sitting on this side of the square bead, but you really don't see it. And let me go ahead and make one more knot here. And that should be sufficient. And now I'm going to go through the seed bead and the pyrite bead as well. And that's how you add new thread. I'm going to go ahead and snip off this tail. And now I'm ready to add the next unit, which is the unit of 4 pyrite beads. So let me keep going until I get the length that I want, and I'll meet you back. Okay, I'm back, and I've completed a length that's about 6 inches long, and I used a total of 12 square beads. Of course, if you want something longer, you'd have to add more, but keep in mind that if you started with a square bead, it's a good idea to end with a square bead. So you need to take that into account. So now I'm going to show you how to add the other end of the clasp. As you can see, I've loaded a square bead, but now I'm going to add 2 50-no seed beads and the clasp. So I'm going to go through the loop like this. And 2 more seed beads. I'm going to go down this side of the square bead like this. So that's what we have. And now a seed bead. And I'm going to go through the pyrite bead, traveling in the opposite direction of where I exited from prior to this. And pull. So that's what we have so far. And of course I need to reinforce. So I'm going to travel through the exact same thread path. Going through the 2 seed beads right here. The loop of the clasp. It keeps wanting to attach itself to my needle. Let me turn it this way. Going down these 2 seed beads on the side. Through the square bead. Through the seed bead. The pyrite bead, the seed bead, and the square bead, and I'm going to go up through the clasp one more time. So I'm going through these 2 seed beads. Let me just pull it a little bit. You have to have the right tension. There's one, and there's the next one. And now the clasp. have a firehouse very close by, so I'm always hearing emergency vehicles. And now let me go through the seed bead and the square bead. And now I'm going to show you step 2. For step 2, I'm going to go through the seed bead. I'm going to pick up another seed bead, go through the pyrite bead on the side, like this, and that pops that seed bead in that little space. And I'm going to pick up another seed bead, go through the next one, and the square bead, and the seed bead following that. And that deposits that seed bead in that little space there. So once again, I'm picking up a seed bead, I'm going through the pyrite bead, pick up another seed bead, go through the next seed bead, and the square bead, and the following seed bead, and pull. Pick up a seed bead, go through the pyrite bead, pick up another seed bead, go through the seed bead, the square bead, and the next seed bead. And that's basically it, guys. And look at this. My magnet clasp came together. That happens sometimes. So that's what I'm going to do for the entire bracelet. I'm going to go all the way down, adding the seed beads in the spaces. And when I get to the clasp, I'm going to go through it one more time, come back down this way, go through this clasp one more time, and tie off some knots around that square bead and snip it off. And that's basically it. It's very simple. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. I haven't snipped the thread yet because I wanted to show you something, but I have done a couple of knots around that square bead. Another thing that I forgot about, when you add the seed beads in the spaces, it does shorten the bracelet a little bit, so it's probably going to be a little snug on me, but that's okay because I have a friend who has smaller wrists than me, believe it or not, and I'm just going to give it to her. So that's another thing you have to take into account. Usually I do a prototype, but this time I didn't do that. I just played around with the bead pattern until I got something that looked good, but I didn't complete the whole bracelet, so I missed the sizing a little bit. I think it shortened it by maybe 1/4 of an inch, something like that, not too much. But anyway, let me show you this. I don't want to go through those pyrite beads because they are kind of delicate and I don't want any of them to break. So I'm just going to go, let's see. I'm exiting out of this seed bead. So I'm going to go through the next one, like this. And the clasp. And now down these two. Like that. Let me go ahead and grab another thread bridge. Might as well make another knot. Go through the loop. Go through the square bead. Now normally you would go down the seed beads, but I'm not going to do that this time because I don't want to have to go through the pyrite beads. So I'm going to go to the other side of the square bead and go through that hole, like that. We did something similar at the beginning, if you recall, and you really don't see that thread on the side, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. And now I'm going to go up these seed beads one more time. Let's see if I can get them through. There we go. Through the clasp. through these 2 seed beads and the square bead. And like I said, I've already made a couple of knots around this area when I was reinforcing, so I'm not going to do any more. And I'm just going to snip it off. And that's it, guys. Look how pretty that bracelet is. Oh my gosh. I love those pyrite beads. They sparkle so much. And that's what it looks like on. Very, very pretty. I hope you like it as well. And I hope you can make your own. Don't forget to add more square beads to get the length that you want. I'm going to put it on for you one more time to say goodbye. Thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.